Hello, everybody, and welcome to Behind the Camera. Here we are with episode 123 of Behind the Camera. As always, before we get into today's show, if you would like to support the podcast, you can follow me on all social media using the link in the description, which will take you to all platforms, and also includes the link to my book, Behind the Camera, The Journey So Far, which you can get in paperback, ebook, and free on Kindle Unlimited. I'm also on Patreon. For £3 a month, you'll get access to more behind-the-scenes content, including an exclusive series where I catch up with old guests and much more. But now, getting into today's conversation. My guest today is Irish musician and streamer / content creator, Twoshoes. I've been very excited to have this conversation. I've known Dan for a couple of years. We first met at Gamerfest down in Dublin back in 2024. And I even had the pleasure of interviewing him at Belfast's first ever motion sickness show back in February. So I was very fortunate to get this opportunity to sit down and really get to know the creator behind the streams, behind the music. And it was just amazing to hear a lot about Dan's journey, stories that he has from content creation, and how the future is looking for him after a transformative period of his life. But now, here's the interview. Well, it is my great pleasure to welcome you, Dan, also known as Twoshoes, to the podcast. Welcome to Behind the Camera, man. How are we doing?
I'm good, dude. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. No, it's my pleasure. And I realized that it sounded like I just said, welcome to Behind the Camera, man, but you know what I mean. And I'm sure those listening,
the new offshoot podcast where we interview crew people in the film industry.
Exactly. It's the behind the camera man. No, that's it, but sure, the scope is endless, as I like to say. So Dan, you are streamer, musician, a man of many talents, especially in the creative space, and there's a lot we have to talk about, man. So let's start on like the gaming and streaming side of things, and let's talk about your background in there and sort of where it's led you to today.
God, man, it's been a long time since I went down this rabbit hole. So I've always been a gamer. I think 1999, getting Tony Hawk's Pro Skater on the PC was my intro to falling in love with games, and subsequently that game kind of informed every aspect of my life. Be it music, skateboarding, all the things that I like and do. You can't really see it in the screen, but the skateboards behind me everywhere. Anyway, so I've always been into games, and then I remember just the early days of YouTube and being really obsessed with the likes of C-Nanners, Hutch, all those kind of early Call of Duty commentary guys, and thinking recording your games, recording your gameplay and having it on your computer was the coolest thing. Because I was always into video. I think when you grow up skateboarding, it is inevitable that you end up filming stuff because everyone has cameras, and me and my friends used to have this videos we used to edit on Windows Movie Maker called Extreme Idiots, which was us basically ripping off Jackass, and so I was for my 12th birthday I got editing software. And that was so long ago that it came in a box. You have to. This is before you could just download
the proper installation discs for them,
dude.
As well,
2 discs. I got Pinnacle. The software was called Pinnacle Studio. I think it's still going. I think Pinnacle Studio is what iMovie is to Final Cut Pro. Pinnacle is that to Avid, which is I don't know if you've heard of Avid, but Avid is an industry standard. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But yeah. So anyway, grew up kind of editing videos and stuff, and I thought I was gaming as well, and I always was obsessed with the idea of oh my god, if I can record gameplay, this would be so cool. And I remember buying a Dazzle capture card, and trying to record onto my mom's shitty laptop from my Xbox, and getting a no scope clips on COD 4. So that love for content kind of never left me, but I never had a PC and stuff. And then eventually I got my own PC kind of in my late teens, and made all these efforts to try and stream and stuff, and Could never quite figure it out. And then when I got to college, I remember the summer I had a good enough PC to actually start streaming, and I actually just fell in love with it. My friends were worried about me because all I would do was stream. I just like had no clue what I was doing. I would like be live for like 8 hours a day, 9 hours a day. And just this was probably 2017, 2018, like really early. And I built up a bit of a following, couple of thousand followers. And just off the back of like, you know, finding Facebook groups for World of Warcraft and being like posting in them. I was like the worst guy, dude. I just like, you know, would anywhere and everywhere that I could post a link. And don't do this, by the way, anyone who's watching, just don't do this. It was a much different time back then. Anywhere and everywhere that I could post a link, I would post a link. I just, you know, and at the time my name was Alligator Blood on Twitch.
Oh, right.
It was actually X Alligator, all like, you know, lowercase and uppercase letters.
Oh, yes.
Alternating caps. Yeah. BLO0D. And then once I realized you could change your name on Twitch, I changed it to Twoshoes. But yeah, so I streamed for like a summer and then just, you know, went back to college and, you know, just kind of stopped. And it was pure Twitch. I didn't have a Twitter. I didn't have anything else. It was just going live on Twitch, posting on Reddit, posting on all these forums, whatever. And then I stopped streaming then, and a couple of years passed, and then the pandemic, like a lot of people, was kind of a turning point, stuck at home. And at that point I was like, I had gone in to become a video editor, like as a career, and a videographer. So I had cameras and had computers and, you know, lighting, and I had all the gear. Not that you need all that to stream, but like, you know, I had it, nothing else to do. So I started streaming on Twitch again, brand new channel. And no, sorry, it wasn't a brand new channel. It was on that channel. Revived that channel. And just the timing was right, man. I just, you know, ended up kind of getting kind of a bit of a following quite early on Twitch. And again, just became obsessed with it. Just like couldn't stop. Every morning I'd wake up, I was just so stoked to stream. Just, yeah. And you have to, I think to do this, you have to be a little bit crazy. You know what I mean? You have to be there has to be a bit of a screw loose to be a bit obsessive over it and like to kind of live and breathe it, because, you know, not that you need to, but like some people, you know, especially in the later, like back then, obviously Twitch was massive, but it was nowhere near, like live streaming wasn't near as accessible as it is now. Like TikTok live wasn't really a thing back then, you know, the kind of IRL boom that we're seeing now, like Kaisenet and all these people and these like big, you know, that was kind of, it was there, but it wasn't really as big.
Yeah.
But, you know, a lot of people found success and virality very early on. But back then, like you did have to be a bit obsessive about it. You had to be a bit crazy. And that's not healthy, but you kind of did. But I would just like spend my days streaming and spend my nights watching content. Like, you know, people like Harris Heller, Stream Scheme, just all these kind of YouTubers that would like teach you how to grow your stream, and they found them very beneficial. But I was like, there's so much that I've learned over my first kind of few months here doing this that like I haven't seen other people talk about. So I made this video just called How to Grow on, I think it was called How to Grow on Twitch 2019 or 2020. No, it would have been 2020. It was How to Grow on Twitch 2020. And I didn't go on and say, oh, I'm this huge big streamer, because I wasn't. I was like, you know, I had like kind of 30, 40 viewers at that stage regularly. But I built that off like just Twitch, again, like just Twitch. And I think that was even pre TikTok, not even using TikTok that much. So I just made this YouTube video that was like the video I would have wanted to watch if it was my first few weeks on Twitch. You know what I mean? And I think it got like 50 views in 3 weeks, and I was stoked by that. I was like, that's amazing. So cool. Yeah. And then one day I was just sitting on my phone and it was just like new comment, like literally every minute, like new comment. And I think that video nearly has 1 million views now at this stage. It just hit the algorithm and took off, and I went, holy shit, like there's obviously people like this. And I just started making them, you know, making these kind of Twitch and stream advice videos each week, about like whatever problem I was experiencing on my own content at that time, or had already experienced, whether it was like working with your first sponsor, how to get a sponsor, how to make your stream look cool, like fun ideas you can do in your stream. I would just make a video about it. And so I built up kind of an audience then on YouTube, and then used the YouTube traffic to bring them over to the stream. And it ended up doing that for like 5 or 6 years full time. So
amazing.
Pretty wild.
You know, it's what's really fascinating is like hearing the sort of differences between streaming and content creation now in comparison to like the sort of mid to late 2010s. Like it's night, it was night, and obviously, you know, like we say, it comes down to the accessibility of it because, and I remember like back in the day when people would have put like, because Call of Duty was the game for making clips. Like Call of Duty was the game because I remember being back in school and people would have been like, oh, such and such has started putting clips up on YouTube. But the funny thing about it is nobody gave a shit about going viral back then. You know, live streaming wasn't really anything that people did. People just wanted to make these clips because, you know, they had the means to do so. You know, and they were probably like playing the game off their TV, had their capture card in, and whatever else, however they recorded it, probably off like their laptop or something. But that's how, you know, it was such a simple thing. But you know, and I remember, I don't know if you remember this, but there was a live streaming platform that Twitter had, or Twitter owned it.
Oh yeah, Periscope.
Periscope, exactly.
Yeah.
Now that for me was like the OG IRL kind of live streaming app, and that was very kind of short-lived. Like, I mean, I would have went live on it just if I was ever walking around the shops or something, just because I was like, oh, this will be funny. It wasn't chasing virality or anything like that. But it's quite funny now, like when you look at the sort of definition of like what's viral, because back whenever like we were sort of in our teens growing up, there was like maybe one viral video a year. And, you know, you're talking like Double Rainbow. There's, I don't know if you remember, do you remember the video of the farmer chasing his dog, Fenton?
Alan! Oh no, Fenton!
Jesus Christ, Fenton!
Yeah.
And then Gangnam Style. That would have been like the bar, you know?
Man, like, but it's so bananas now because, like, you know, back then, and like I know we're talking like back then as if it was like, you know, back in the day. You know,
I feel like we're of that age to do that now, though.
But if you think about it, look, in years of like, you know, life, it's really not that long ago. But in terms of like how the internet and how content has evolved, you know, like the word viral has lost all meaning.
I think so.
Like,
yeah.
Viral used to be like, okay, this viral infection that's fucking deadly, and then it's like, oh, viral videos of like Smosh lip syncing the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle song, and now viral can mean like, I'm trying the viral croissant from this bakery down the road, or I got the new viral drink. Like, it's just it's complete content, and the internet has completely changed. Like back then, if you think of like going viral, let's say like think of like a Call of Duty thing, we didn't even post clips. You had to stack clips for like weeks on end. Learn fucking After Effects and then make a sick montage timed. Like, you literally had to learn how to be a professional video editor. And a well-rounded one at that, to make like a viral gaming montage on YouTube for the most part. You know, obviously there was like standard things, but now, you know, you're playing your game, your software is recording in the background, your software is using AI to know when you hit a sick clip to then automatically go back and create that clip for you, put it into a website that creates captions, adds music to it, you know what I mean? And then you post that all out in 20 minutes after you hit the clip. And then that can lead to you having 100 viewers on your streams or not. Yeah. You know, it's, and I'm not saying that there's no effort required or no talent required anymore, but it's just a completely different playing field.
Oh,
you know?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Because like, you know, like the definition of viral has changed for sure. It's gone from like one video with hundreds of thousands to millions of views to something that is widely posted about, really. Like matcha, for example, like that's viral because everybody's posting about it. Whereas back in the day when we were young, when the internet was great, back then it was like
children.
One video was viral. That was it. The viral video, that was it. And like now it's very much like a sort of, because it's more widespread. So I guess the definition is kind of changed, but it still makes sense in a way, just of how it's
Yeah,
distributed. But like
but
the
I mean, as
bar
in
has been
like,
set so much higher now for that because
oh,
like
but now it's like, to be successful, you have to have gone viral. You
yeah,
know what I mean? Like, and kids now, kids, here we are, the kids these days, but content creators these days like equate their worth to whether or not they can go viral.
oh,
And
yeah.
I think I think literally, like, I am so grateful, and this is not copium. I'm so grateful that like I didn't just like, have a couple of weeks of live stream and post one clip and then it took off and did millions of views on TikTok, and then all of a sudden I'm this overnight success. I kind of learned and matured in my content to know what actually is good, because like, if that had happened with me, is like, you know all of a sudden overnight you're just like, you gain an audience,
Yeah.
and gaining an audience is amazing, and it's so good, it's such a like crazy thing to happen to you, but it's also intense as all hell, and if you're not prepared for that and you don't have a roadmap of like how to deal with it, or like, it can be really detrimental to some people, and I know it certainly would have been for me. I walked away from full-time content creation um on my own channels, you know as a choice, because I actually couldn't, even at the size I was at, which I had a YouTube channel of like nearly 30,000 subscribers, and then like 10K on Twitch. Like, became too much for me to handle. You know what I mean? It really did. You are on constantly. You are literally, and when you're that size and you're full time, you can do it monetarily. I was living a good life. I was comfortable. I was fortunate enough to be, to have leveraged my what could be considered small in the grand scheme of things, platform, because it was niche. I was able to do sponsors, and I was able to, make more money doing this than I was in my day job that I had left to do it, but at a cost of never stopping.
Yeah.
And, it's a long time. You see people, these huge content creators, and they're like, oh, my team will do this for me, or my team, or my editor, or my whatever. It's a long time before you can get any of that, and it isn't. The sad reality is it's not the case for most people. And I've seen people really crash and burn chasing virality, and that includes myself, because you have to ask yourself what you want. Do you want elongate? Sorry, do you want like longevity in this and comfort, or do you want to be a viral success, gain all this success, and what comes with success is pressure? Do you want that, and then have to then chase that success constantly, because you're only as good as the last thing you put out, and your own self-worth will tell you that as well. You're like, this one didn't get 10 million. This one only got 9 million. I'm a fucking failure.
Yeah.
Do you want to then spend the rest of your life chasing that, and then hopefully it works out for you, or then it doesn't? And like, I don't want to sound like the harbinger of doom here, but it is like, a lot of people don't, when they walk down this road, and try to enter this game and do it as a job, they don't really consider what it's actually like to do as a career versus something that seems really shiny and cool on the outside,
Oh, for sure, for sure. And I think as well, like that comes down to like the accessibility of streaming and how influential it is at this point, because anybody can do it. Like you don't even need like any followers on TikTok anymore to do it. YouTube's kind of slowly making a live comeback, but it's very, very slow. I think they're kind of waiting in the wings at the moment before something kind of takes off with that. But Twitch is still going strong, TikTok's going very strong, but I kind of think there's an element where sometimes people go in it for the wrong reasons and they're setting themselves up for failure. I've seen that
100%.
so many times, and it's when you find people who get into streaming particular games because somebody else does it and they see like. So I follow this content creator called Logan64, and he's a Super Mario streamer, a good friend of mine, known him for 3 years now. And the amount of people who I've seen kind of start streaming off the back of him, because he has had a very, very fruitful time streaming both Twitch and TikTok. Very good community, very, very, does very well on it. And he's still not full time or anything. He streams a lot, but he's not a full time streamer.
Yeah.
But I see the amount of people who you just know who started and are like, well, I mean, I was part of this community, so I mean, I think they're all going to follow me over too. And then
Yeah.
3 months later, they're literally like, well, it didn't work out. So, well, I lost interest. It's like, well, no fucking wonder you lost interest because you went in it for the wrong reasons. And now, let me sort of caveat this by saying that if you're inspired by somebody to start streaming yourself, by all that's fantastic. That's pretty much how
Yeah.
probably everybody starts, or most people at least start out. But you've got to be original about it. You've got to like, I liked what you said about your original sort of YouTube, your origins in YouTube, where you made the videos that you wanted to see. And I think that's something that's not done enough, because I think people are always, like you say, chasing the kind of viral moments in terms of, well, this video is going to make a hit. I've just chat GPT'd a bit of a script and then added in a few, zoom in effects and viral noises.
Yeah.
And like, what would you kind of say if somebody wanted to start streaming tomorrow? They come to you and it's like, Dan, I want to start streaming. Can you give me like 3 pieces of advice? What would you say?
Okay. Yes. Firstly, make sure you like it. Make sure you actually enjoy it. Because I think a lot of people, especially young people, are like, oh, I want to be a streamer, because they just see like all these people, and it's almost like, it's like when you're a kid and you're like, I want to be an astronaut.
Yeah.
But because you just think astronaut, awesome, which is true, but you don't see like, okay, well, I'm going to have to do X amount of science degrees and learn to speak 3 languages and, make sure that my body can handle 0G. Like it's like, you just assume that that's what you want to do. Like, I think people think content creator or streamer, and especially if you're talking about video games, it's like, they're like, I get to play video games all day. And anyone who's done this long enough knows that, like, actually gaming becomes about 10% of what you actually do.
Absolutely.
So, I've seen people before who have commented on my videos, or even friends of mine that have gone out on this, and they're doing it so much, they're putting so much time into it. And then they realize that, actually, I don't really enjoy this that much. I love gaming, but I don't really love, creating a show out of it, because that's what you're doing. I think if you're wondering why you've been streaming for like, 3 years and you're still averaging 3 viewers, watch, and like that happens to some people, right? That's fine. People just don't get the break they deserve. But also other times it's that you have to realize that you're not just gaming. Or you have to realize that you're not just gonna like, you're not just streaming your games. You have to put on a show. You're entertaining, whereas if you're just sitting in a dark room playing video games and not saying a word, and then wondering why nobody's coming to watch you, like, maybe you're not willing to do the whole show part, which is completely fine if that's the case. You don't have to love this. The second thing I would say is, do not go into it thinking that it will be a job straight away. And I know people have said this all the time, but like, I think a great way of you said earlier that streaming now is so accessible, which is correct, but so is paint supplies, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not going to go down to the local shop and buy some paintbrushes and a canvas and then aim to put on an exhibition and become a professional artist in 6 weeks. You know what I mean? Like, so like similarly, if I went to the shop and bought a football, I'm not going to be like, right, I'm a professional footballer.
Yeah. True.
After 3 weeks, like, it you have to start this stuff as a hobby. If you go into it, it's not just like starting a business. Like, obviously I can say, right, I'm going to start I don't know, I'm going to open a garage tomorrow. I'm going to start like, whatever. But that's a kind of different thing. With this, it's like, if you go into it with the express intent of making money straight away and making this a career, you're destined to fail, because you'll pigeonhole yourself into the one thing that brought you a little bit of attention in the first place. You'll get stuck doing that. You'll realize you hate it, and you will be miserable. And plus, if it doesn't work out for you, which it doesn't, unfortunately, often doesn't, you'll be really let down by it. So I think, like, go into this with very little expectations of yourself. You might figure out that you love it, and then cool. Then you can start to, try grow it, see where it is at, see where it's at after 6 months, see where it's at after a year, maybe 2, maybe 3. And then you can make that decision if it's moving in the direction where you think, okay, I want to make this a bit more than just a hobby. But don't do that from day one, because it's just it won't end well.
No, for sure. And like, you see so many people who do quit their jobs probably at the wrong moment. and their streaming career becomes so stop-start because of the decision that they made. And that's like a sort of not a choice based around like, oh, I'm comfortable enough to do this. It's very it seems more geared towards no, I need to free up the time to do this. I need to kind of live the streamer lifestyle to really kind of get my break kind of thing. Now, obviously, you can never really sort of, you can only speculate on what sort of individuals' intentions for doing so are, but at the same time, you know, if you see someone who's like, oh, I'm a full-time streamer and content creator, they're sitting there with like averaging 5 viewers for 2 years, it's kind of like, are you okay? Like, I mean, fair play that you're doing this full time, but like, are you okay? Have you, you know?
I mean, look, people can throw the word full time in front of anything, and but it's like, look, I think like, and I'm not trying to discourage anybody, I really am it. And like, you know, the whole burn the boats attitude does work for some people when they just say, right, okay, I'm not giving myself a lifeline, and I'm putting everything in, I'm going all in, and some people that works out for some people, it does. But some people it works out for. I think like I've talked to people, you know, who've like taken out loans, who've quit their, who've like, you know, maxed out credit cards, quit their jobs, and really, you know, like not really fucked up their lives as a result of this, you know, chasing a dream. And like, look, there's people out there who I know who are like incredibly talented people, incredibly talented creators, and haven't gotten the break that they deserve. And like, maybe that's because of limitations in their life or their time. And if those people turned around and were like, I'm going to take out a loan, I'd probably be like, I think you're an idiot, but okay, good. You know, maybe you'll make it. But then I've seen people who like, unfortunately, like maybe aren't suited to the life and have done the same thing. And this is not something that you can just throw money at. Like, you know, look at people like XQC, who has like, you know, a fairly bog standard microphone and like a Logitech C920 webcam, and the lad is a multi millionaire. Like, people think that throwing money at this problem will make them a good streamer. It's not always the case, you know. It's not. And like, I was when I started doing it, and it became something that was monetized, and I was kind of earning money off streams and off YouTube. I still waited till I was earning a consistent wage for at least 6 months before I then decided to take the leap. And I had a safety net, you know. I made sure I had a safety net in place to if it didn't work out, that I would be okay. And it's still like, oh my God, was it stressful? Like, and like, I'm very, very, very fortunate I was able to do it, and I don't regret it for a second. But it was heavy. Once you make this your sole income, it really does become, it's a great job and it's an amazing job, and it opened doors to me that like are now in my current life and my current career. I owe all of that to making the decision to go into this full time. But it does make it, eventually it does become kind of like a normal job where you're going, oh shit, I don't want to go to work today, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe I'll call in. But the difference is like, you can't really call in sick to this, because then you don't get paid.
Yeah,
you know
exactly. And it's that, you know, it does, you do carry the mindset into it like what you would with any other job where, excuse me, you have days in your job where you cannot be bothered. You're just like, I fuck this. I just want to like lie in bed. But, you know, and when you kind of stream independently as well, you can just be like, look, I can take the hit for the day, this, that, and, you know, and just kind of, but then obviously there are a lot of nuances to that, but that kind of like leads us on quite nicely, because obviously you did recently make a return to streaming under Twoshoes, but then that sort of very, very quickly changed. If you would like to touch on that. Yeah,
so I took a few years off full-time streaming and full-time YouTube, and I went and I worked for a few companies, particularly a few startups in the gaming industry, and a lot of it was through content, you know. And it was I was making kind of content for company shorts, or you know, doing a lot of consulting as well, and you know, think about working in startups and working in the gaming industry as well. It's very volatile, you know. You're kind of a couple of months here, you're a couple of months there, you know. It's just the nature of the industry. And then I kind of was sick and tired of job hopping, so I started my own business, which I ran into the ground. But you know, it was successful for a time. I'm sure we'll get into that later. But life's been there's been a lot of changes over the last kind of year and a half, and in like my personal life. So I'm kind of just like taking things on one thing at a time. You know, I love the community that I built, and I'm still friendly with a lot of them and stuff, but under the Twoshoes name. So, but for now, yeah, it's great just working back in the industry and getting to do a lot of kind of cool stuff.
Absolutely, man, and it is great to see, especially because, as you say, you know, you did take a bit of a hiatus as well from streaming, and we will talk about this as well. But like, the fact that you were able to come back, and the first, I remember like the first couple of streams you did, back on Twoshoes, like at the start, but earlier on this year, and within no time, back at the top of the mountain kind of thing, like, you know, and it was sort of.
I don't know if I'd use the word top of the mountain, but I was somewhere.
But in terms of, you know, like, I mean, sort of being able to sort of stream, you have like the kind of creative license, and just being in an environment that, you know, you love being in. I mean, I think surely from a personal aspect, it had to have been really fulfilling for sure.
Man, absolutely. Like, you know, yeah, because around that time it was a bit like very transformative. Like, like there was a lot going on, and you know, I think what's so cool, like, you know, about my own channel is that like there's been a few times over the years where I've taken breaks, or I've moved from full time to part time, and then part time to like once every couple of weeks, and then, you know, back full time again between jobs and all this kind of stuff. And like what is so cool is that, like, you know, there's been people in my community who've like never like given up on the channel, if that makes sense. Like, I remember taking a break early on. I remember going to my sister's wedding in Spain, and I was gone for a week, and then coming back like a few weeks later, and like this person popped into my chat who I hadn't seen in ages, and I was like, oh hey, like such and such, long time no see. And they're like, oh, you didn't stream for a while, so I thought you quit, so I unfollowed you.
Oh,
and I was like, I was gone for 5 days. But then there's people like I haven't, like, there's people where I hadn't streamed on my channel in months and months and months, and then, like, you know, notification gang straight in being like, Dan, like, you're back, like, and that's so sick. You know what I mean? It's really cool to kind of have that. But also, you know, you do worry sometimes where, like, I kind of was like, oh, am I washed now? Like, is it done? Like, is the party over? And, you know, being able to do this still, you mean, because I'm no spring chicken, like I'm 33, and, you know, I kind of was like, is this done? Like, if this was going to happen for me, would it have happened by now? You know, but I'm really glad it didn't, dude. You know what I mean? Like, especially the way life's gone the last while, you know, I'm just really happy working and doing this in the capacity that I do it. You know, life is a lot slower now. It's a lot more serene, a lot more peaceful. I have a lot more time for other stuff. And you know, getting to kind of obviously work on loading, and there's a lot of stuff I do there that isn't stream related as well, which is great. So I get to do a multitude of things, and yeah, man, it's been really good. It's been really good.
No, I love to hear that, like, as well. You know, and having those kind of people who still will come back to you, follow you kind of wherever you're at, like that's so important as a streamer. And I think it's one of those things that a lot of people forget as a streamer, because, you know, when you're a streamer, you do it for yourself, and you have to do it for yourself, because like you say, you have to enjoy it. But at the same time, there is a massive aspect of it where the people around you make it what it is. And that, for me, that was where it went wrong for me in streaming personally. And again, it's no fault of the people who were around me, because they tuned out because I had tuned out.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things where I don't think I'd realized I had tuned out at that point, very subconsciously, because it was such a habit that it was like, well, I'm going to stream, because I think there was somewhat of a transition for me where I use streaming as a sort of way of trying to convert it into podcast traffic. And I thought that, for me, I didn't see the problem with that at the time. But now I'm just like, yeah. So I was really just, I was just going through the motions of it, and just kind of, it had become soulless. And I didn't really realize that until I'd called a couple of people out, and just being like, what's going on here? Where's the change been? And they're just like, well, where have you been?
Yeah, man.
And I was like, do you know, that's fair. And, you know, I sort of, it's kind of like when things like that happen, you realize you kind of need to take a break, and you need to go through a bit of a
Yeah.
transition. You do find
Dude,
yourself able to kind of throw yourself into other things and realize, you know what, maybe this was good as the start of the path, the start of the journey, and like, you just finding other paths that you can take that
yeah.
are a lot nicer and make more sense.
Dude, you know what? Like looking back on it now is like, when I knew it was time to, and if I could go back, I would have been like, dude, pull the plug now, get out, Dan.
Mm.
Is I, and again, I want to preface, I want to say, like, I don't want to discourage anybody from doing this, and
No,
I,
of
I,
course not.
I know like my view has been maybe somewhat jaded sounding over the last while it's conversation, but it's not. Like, again, I owe my current life to this to trying this, but I just want to be real about kind of how some of the things that you can encounter in this
Yeah.
game, but yeah, where I knew it, where looking back, where it went wrong, or where it became time to stop, is so I went full time, and I was living in Ireland, and then my partner at the time, we decided to move abroad, and we moved to the Middle East,
Yeah.
and I became grossly unhappy there. Just, you know, like, I don't think I was really happy with, like, it was good for a while, and I like, and sorry, I didn't become grossly unhappy because I was living there. I became grossly unhappy just in, I think, in my life,
Yeah.
I just wasn't happy doing what I was doing. I was so numbers obsessed, and I kind of like, the problem with this is like, you chase, like I mentioned earlier, like you chase that like big video. Like when you have that big video or that big stream that pops off, and you're getting gifted subs, and or you're whatever, like, or you have that video that just like hits the algorithm and there's loads of views on it. You chase that, like, you will continue to chase that. And for some people it's a great motivator, but for me it destroyed me, because when it happened, I was elated. But when it went the opposite way or something flopped, I was like a demon. Like, I remember like my ex saying to me, like, what's wrong with you? And I was like, this guy like left a comment being like, shit video. And then she's like, yeah, but there's 3,000 other comments being like, hey, great video, And I became this person who like equated my own self-worth to views and money. And if it was going good, I was in a great mood. If the stream was popping off, I was a great streamer. But when the stream was quiet, I was a terrible streamer. And I was literally looking at OBS, looking at how long I'd been streaming for, so I could turn it off at 3 hours. And I remember, like, then, and when that starts to happen, when your passion and like you said, your soul leaves it, becomes soulless. You take a hit in all aspects, because the first people to notice are the audience.
Yeah.
And I remember I had a few kind of bad months, and I was kind of struggling a bit financially. And instead of making the decision of like, okay, Dan, maybe it's time to take something else on the side or whatever, blah, blah, I remember getting approached by this brand to do a video on this microphone. And I said, yeah, cool. And I'd always had this, like, I'll never work with a brand that I don't like. I'll never push something to an audience that isn't good. And I would say 99.99% of the sponsored content that I've done, that was the case. I always did my research. I always tested out stuff. But they were like, yeah, we'll pay you X amount to review this microphone. I was like, yes, sure, send it to me. Mm-hmm. And it arrived, dude. And like, I'm ashamed to say it, but like, this is just where this brought me. It sucked. It was a bad piece of kit. It was fucking awful. And I had like agreed already to like make this, like, basically get paid to like say that this was a good microphone. And like, I put out the video, and like, in the video, I'm doing a comparison of that microphone to this microphone. And I did something I always said I'd never do, which is lie to the audience. Like, I put that video out for a paycheck, and like that looking back now, and it wasn't even that much money. It wasn't even that much money as well. Like, looking back now, I'm like, that's where it went wrong. That's where you should have pulled the plug and gone, no. you've disrespected your audience, and you've disrespected like you've let your morals go. You know, look, and I can make any excuse under the sun and say, yeah, look, I was going through it financially and blah 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 blah, and every creator's done it. But at the same time, like, that's not the audience's fault. They have hard earned money, and you're pushing a product on them that isn't great. You know, so I do that as a really big regret of mine, and that's when I knew. Sorry, that's when I should have known that time was up. Like, you know, and like, you know, I've talked about it since when I've been live and stuff, and I've, like, you know, made my apologies for it. But yeah, dude, like, it really, like, it's funny, like, content creation, like, really gave me so many opportunities and really put me on a path, but it also really damaged me, you know, really damaged me.
Yeah.
And it made me a person I didn't like, you know, after a while, because I just became this, like, you know, obsessive person, and it led me down a very destructive path. Like, you know, yeah, it did.
Yeah. No, I do you know what, man? I really respect the honesty there, because I think it's something that a lot of people don't really admit, especially getting so number focused and so, like, it's a very scary thing to get into, whether you do it as a hobby or whether you do it because there's the potential of building it into a career. Because, you know, regardless, the next day is not promised. The viewers that you have on one day, you might not get the next day. Anything can happen. Your content just stops being pushed. Like, anything can, you know, and anything can happen. Your livelihood is gone. It happens all the time to people. And you know, and again, like, I mean, to really kind of emphasize the point that you're trying to make, you know, we're not trying to discourage anybody from getting into this, because it's such an amazing, beautiful thing to do. Because outside of streaming, whatever it is that you're streaming, there is a massive sense of community. There's, like, you meet so many amazing people. There's networking opportunities. You know, sponsors may want to work with you, things like that. There's so much, like, gratification. There's so much, like, fulfillment out of doing it, that I would genuinely encourage, like, people, if they want to go and do it, to do it, give it a go.
Like,
but it's
100%. And I actually want to tell it
that it can be.
It can be. It can be. It can be. And, like, look, like, I let it get there because, like, you know, I was like, I want to preface, it wasn't just content. Like, I was going through a lot of stuff, and I you know, I'm the type of person, like, I don't do anything in halves. You know, I do nothing in halves. I don't have I've up until kind of in the last year, I wasn't good at balance. You know, I wasn't good at doing something kind of, like, in moderation. I just, like, I was 100% in, and then as a result, like, other things, like, I stopped looking after myself, you know, when I was creating content, because, like, all I wanted to do, I was like, I have to be the computer. I stopped training. I stopped doing I was eating shit. I just became, you know, but that's just because that's the person I was, you know. So I just, you know, you just have to, there has to be a balance. But, like, I do want to tell a cool story from that time, because, like that, like, opportunities come, and, you know, sometimes I look back on it and I'm like, oh God, like, didn't realize at the time how cool that was. Like, you know, I got reached out to by this company that I ended up doing a bit of work for. They had seen my videos and they liked them, and they wanted me to make some videos for their company, and they ended up flying me. I was living in the Middle East, and they ended up flying me out to Gamescom for the weekend, put me up in, like, a hotel and stuff, and, like, got to make these videos, just going around Gamescom interviewing people, and it was sick. It was so cool, and I was like, oh my God, like, I'm being, like, because I never started streaming to do any of this. Like, I literally was bored in the pandemic and needed a way to not go insane. Now, I ended up going insane anyway, but that was that was many years later. But, like, I remember, like, I was like, sat on a plane that was paid for on somebody else's dime, getting a plane into Gamescom, and then did that. That was sick. And then the same company, a couple of months later, flew me from the Middle East to New York to cover the League of Legends semi-finals in Madison Square Garden.
Amazing.
And they flew me business class from the Middle East, and it's a direct flight to New York. So 17 and a half hours. And I'm terrified of planes, you know? And I was like, I'll only do it. I felt like I don't know how I got away with it, but I was like, I'll only do it if you fly me business class. You know what I mean? And well, to be fair as well, I was only going for 3 days, and I was going to be 12 hours behind my body clock.
Yeah,
and I had to be on
exactly.
camera. I had to be on camera the whole time, kind of presenting this like whole, hey, we're here at Madison Square Garden, and I was like, look, I'm going to be dead on camera. So I was like, I'll be able to sleep if you fly me business class, because your seat becomes a bed.
Yeah.
So Dan's beautiful idea at the time was to book the latest flight possible at nighttime. So I was like, okay, I'll stay awake the whole day before, and then I'll take off at like 1 a.m. my time. So that way, once I get on the plane, I'll just go to sleep. So I got to the airport at like, I think maybe 11:30 at night. I think the flight was at like 1:30 in the morning or something crazy like that. And no, flight was at midnight. Sorry. And I got to the airport at like whatever, 9:30. So I was like, okay, I'm so tired. I'm really scared of the plane. I'll just get nice and drunk in the airport. I'll just get nice and drunk in the airport so I can just get on the plane and go to sleep, So I ended up meeting this dude at the airport bar who was on the plane. We got talking, and then it was like a double-decker plane. So it was like the economy was downstairs and business was upstairs. So we got on the plane, and I was like, oh, sorry, I'm up here in business class. I'll see you on the other side. So I go up, and I'm like a little bit tipsy, and I get into my seat, and I'm like, okay, settle in and whatever. And I, like, we took off, and I was like, okay, about to put my seat into bed mode to go to sleep. And the flight attendant comes around, and she was like, oh, Mr. Kelly. Because they know your name in business class, and it makes you feel so. And here's me, like this, like stupid kid wearing a Slayer tank top, like all around all these like businessmen who like have paid out of their own pocket to be there. Here's me going to some fucking drunk as hell, going to this gaming event, and they're like, "No, Mr. Kelly, will you be joining us in the lounge?" I was like, "What?" They're like, the lounge. And I was like, yes, of course, I know what that is. So she brings me to the back of the plane where there's a literal bar, like a stand-up, like there's a guy behind the counter shaking cocktails. There's like a big, 50-inch TV on the wall showing the football, and all these people are standing up. There's cocktail music playing. This is on a plane, right? And I was like, oh, okay, well, hang on. I'll never experience this again. So I'm putting a dent in the bar. So I spend the next, I don't know how many hours hanging out with this dude from New York who's like, hey, you like seafood? I'll give you a nice seafood place. I got a guy. He's going to bring you around. He'll look after you. And then this other dude who was a military contractor who had been like protecting some guy in Saudi Arabia for 6 months who couldn't tell us who it was. So the three of us just like went hell for leather at this bar. I wake up in my seat, I don't know how many hours later, and they're like, yeah, Mr. Kelly, we're landing now. I was like, what? Get through, land, just feel absolutely horrific. And I go through immigration, and I'm getting questioned at immigration, like, why are you here? What are you doing? I was like, League of Legends, blah, 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 like just fucked. Like, haven't slept properly in like a day and a half. And I get into a cab, and because I'm so afraid of flying, right, I bought these like 500 euro Sony headphones that were super good at noise cancellation. I get in the cab, I'm like, yeah, the Hilton Times Square, step on it, But so I'm going into New York, and I'm like not fully realizing like where I am, how tired I am, and when I got into Manhattan, dude, like just the buildings, the people, it was like, so I'd never been in America. Like I was just freaking out, and I could just see that. And I was listening to New York by Frank Sinatra, trying to calm down, and I just see the cab guy like looking at me in the rearview mirror, and he's trying to wave and get my attention. He's like, hey sir, you okay? And I didn't realize, but I was like hyperventilating in the back of the cab, but I couldn't hear myself because of the noise cancellation earphones. So I was just sitting in the back of the cab, like freaking out, like fully having a panic attack. So I get into the hotel, and I was like shaking so much that I couldn't sign my name properly on the check-in thing. Anyway, I go up to my room, the window wouldn't close, there's people screaming and sirens going off outside, and I was like, oh my God, I'm freaking out. So I managed to calm down. I get into bed, and I'm just like, okay, I'll just go sleep. and I was sharing a room with the camera guy who was coming from the Netherlands.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just getting to sleep, and the door swings open, and he's like, "Hey, what's up, man? Like, we gotta go film at this bar down the street." Here we go. I was like, "Oh, like," so we straight out, no sleep, and like I'm on camera, and like you watch that video, I hit it very well, but like for the following 3 days, then I was just a shell of a human.
Wow.
And then flew back to the Middle East 3 days later. But it was an amazing experience. I felt like shit. And I had a lot of, I definitely had COVID as well, I think. But I was like, I like just, it was a solid memory for sure. But the video turned out great.
Yeah, well, that is the, you know, the important thing, because as creatives, putting yourself out there, you know, the final product is essentially what matters, isn't it? And that's kind of, it's almost like a sad reality for creators, because I think like it would be nice for the people consuming the content to really understand what went into it. So that story, first of all, fucking fantastic. Oh my God. Like that is fucking insane. But like you know, you kind of like suffered while having the time of your life kind of thing.
That's
doing
the
this
thing.
work.
I'm like, I
know,
remember being like, I'll never have the opportunity to do this again.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna do it. And I made it. I maybe at the time regretted it, but I made memories. You know, but like having something like that like have happen off the back of content creation for me at the time was just like crazy.
Oh, for sure.
And the last thing I'll say that happened off the back of content creation, and anyone who's heard me talk before will know that I've said this before. Like the people you meet you meet amazing people. Like I met you through this, you know, whatever. But like I remember looking at Twitch Tracker one day, and Twitch Tracker, it shows you all your analytics on stream or whatever, but it also shows you like a list of like, it says like famous followers. So it's like people with big followings who follow you. And I saw like X Danny Brown X. And I was like, no way. There's no way that's Danny Brown. Danny Brown is a rapper. He's my
I was going to say, is that the rapper? Yeah.
He's my favorite rapper of all time. I've gone to see him every time he's played in Ireland since I was like 17 or something.
Nice. And
I clicked on it, and it turns out he has a Twitch channel, and he followed me. So I went to Twitter, and I was like freaking out. I was like, oh my God, like, Danny Brown follows me on Twitch, right? Because the profile picture was just like a random logo. And I tweeted at him, and I was like, hey, Danny Brown, notice you followed me on Twitch. Want to be best friends? And he instantly follows me back and replied to the tweet and was like, what's up? Yeah, I watch all your YouTube videos, bro. Like I watched them when I was starting my stream. I was like, what? So then that moved into DMs. And then the next time he played in Ireland, he like hit me up on Twitter and was like, yo, you got 2 tickets at the door. Like come backstage. And like we hung out backstage together. Like, like just like watch the show from the side of the stage. It was crazy. Yeah.
Wow,
I was like, this. He used to come by the chat the odd time and like say what's up and stuff like that. And I was like, this is bananas. Like that my favorite rapper of all time knows who I am. And I've now met in person, you know?
Oh, dude, that is incredible. And that adds to the beauty of it all, doesn't it? Because like, you know, you never know who's watching your stuff. You know, like a lot of people, they say lurkers make communities. Like, and I think that is so true. Like, you know, when you look at that, like, because had you not sort of pursued that, he would have only ever just tuned in from the, you know, from the back and just kind of, you know, and you'd have been none the wiser. But the fact that, you know, you were able to see that he followed you and able to just be like, yeah, here, dude, this is, and you made friends with like your favorite rapper. Like that is, who else can say that, man? You know what I mean?
I remember, dude, I remember panicking because he texted me and he was like, because we got to the door and we were I brought my friend Kevin. We were the only people on the guest list. And the woman at the door was like, oh, are you press? And I was like, no, I'm friends with Danny Brown. She was like, what? So he texted me. He was like, yo, where are you? And I was like, oh, we're here. We're watching the support act. And he was like, oh, because we had noticed that the passes had like backstage on them. So he was like, oh, come to the dressing room after the show. And I remember being so nervous that I didn't even knock on his dressing room. I swung the door open because we didn't know where we were. Like under in the venue, like we had like shown our passes and the security let us back through this door. We had no idea where we were, like under the stage or some shit. And I remember just like I was overthinking the shit out of it in the taxi home. I was like, he probably thinks I'm so rude. Didn't even knock, just pushed the door open. Like couldn't be doing anything. But yeah, it was wild.
Oh, dude, that is incredible. Like, and the sort of the stories you get from that, it's man. Like, and the thing I love about that is, you realize that these people have such a presence and such a good following and everything like that. But they're just people like you and I, and that's like the
Yeah.
most amazing thing about it, man. Like, and you know, um, you mentioned before about how recently you've had a bit of a transformative time, and we talked
Mm.
about like the person you were, and like how and obviously right now you're in a very very good place, but like if it's something that you'd like to talk about, like your journey from like the last
Yeah.
roughly about 18 months now.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Like, so, like, I don't know. I mentioned earlier, like, I am, I'm not someone who's ever really done things in halves.
Hmm.
Um, and that applies to things that were good for me, like, training or going to the gym and getting really into stuff. Like, put it this way, like, I'm not the type of person who like goes and does an MMA class. I'm the type of guy who signs up for a 22-week intensive 6 days a week MMA class from 5 a.m. till 6:30. Then I go to work and then I fight in Europe's biggest amateur MMA event at the end of it. I don't do it. Like, I can't just do it. I have to
Yeah.
throw myself into it. And I did that. And I got knocked out in the first round. Second round.
Yeah, you
But,
did it though, and that's all that
yeah.
matters.
And like, look, and that having a mind like that is it can be a superpower in some ways, like, but it also is unfortunately goes the other way as well. And about nearly a year ago now, I decided to get sober. I definitely lived very much in anxiety the whole time, just kind of like around content and around like just life in general. And I suppose feeling a bit like maladjusted, right? Like that it would yeah, like just kind of a very fearful person. And I suppose like alcohol and whatever else like really helped me kind of deal with a lot of that, or at least I thought it was helping. And yeah, it and like I was always someone who enjoyed a drink, and I would like I did the thing on stream where I did like Positive Party Friday, and I would have a couple of beers. And at the time I was like, okay, well, that starts at 5, and then now it's starting at 4, and then now it's starting at 3, and now it's you know what I mean. And yeah, I think when I mentioned earlier I started a business and I started this company, and it kind of did quite well quite quickly. I wasn't prepared for it. Similarly to how I was saying, I'm really glad I never went viral, because this started, and then all of a sudden I had like people who were working with me and then for me at one point, and I just completely lost track of it. Like I went off the rails in a bad way, and became like that. Like I think I was like like those like things like that, alcohol and whatever else, like that it works until it doesn't.
Yeah.
And for me it stopped working, and it just turned me into a person that I really didn't like anymore. I didn't respect, and I had to make a change, and I've been sober now for almost a year. Be a year on the 6th of September. And yeah, dude, it was life changing. Like genuinely, like one of the hardest things I've ever done, but also like the best thing I've ever done. I think when you get sober and you kind of that that's removed. When like the substance is removed, you're left with all the reasons why you did it in the first place. And that become like quitting drinking is for me was not hard. When you do enough damage, it's kind of you kind of just have to. You know what I mean? But
of
like
course.
it wasn't hard to quit drinking, but it was hard to face up to then, oh shit, well, Dan, you've kind of just been on autopilot for the last little while, and here's the wreckage of your past and the wake of what you did, and then you have to deal with it. And like I ended up damaging a lot of relationships, and some of which I do hope to repair, and some of which I did repair. And but it was honestly the best thing I've ever done. Just like, as I said, like life is just much slower. You know what I mean? Much more serene now, and it is much more manageable. Like you hear in movies a lot of the time, the first step is admitting you have a problem. The first step isn't admitting you have a problem. The first step is admitting that you're powerless over something, and that your life has become unmanageable.
Yeah.
And I think my life certainly was unmanageable at that point. And yeah, like it's now just, you know, I kind of was like, I'll never be able to like go out and have fun and do all these things. But it's like, no, it's the opposite. I can go out and have a ton of fun and I can still be functioning the next day, you know? So yeah,
sure.
it is. Look, it was scary, but it was, I'm really, really glad I did it, you know?
No, absolutely, man. Like, and I hugely respect the honesty behind all that, because I'm sure like it's not the easiest thing to talk about, but like, I think, you know, when you kind of show that level of accountability for, you know, see like what you were doing and like the person, you know, you felt that you'd become as a result, you know, actively doing something about it, like that's one of the hardest things. I mean, I can't really, you know, speak, you know, from that kind of level, you know, but just in terms of like, but in terms of being accountable for something, like it's, you know, it's a lot more than just getting up and doing something about it. Like there's a whole like a mental aspect of it, of kind of like just, okay, you know, this is what has happened. There is a massive acceptance thing. I know you said it's not accepting you have a problem is not the first thing, but it's something that you do kind of struggle with along the whole time, and it's like
For
very
sure.
difficult to sort of not let that control what you're currently doing to try and remediate that.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And like, I appreciate it. You know, it's funny, like people like I think I might have said this to you before as well. Is like, you know, when you tell people like, oh, I got sober, you know, they're like, oh my God, congratulations. And they're really happy for you. But like, I always struggle with that, because I'm like, why are you congratulating me? Like, I shouldn't have been doing any of this in the first place. You know what I mean? But, you know, it is like, look, I keep it very simple. You know, there's a few things I do I really do just take it a day at a time. I think anyone in recovery, like, you have to take it a day at a time.
Yeah.
And I just, you know, I spent so much energy just being like, what am I going to do in 2 months? And what if this happens? And blah, blah, blah. And like, just like panicking, winding myself up to like, just like letting go and having that surrender of just being like, right, look, you know, I've got today, and I can't stay sober today off yesterday's sobriety. So there's a few simple things I do each day to just keep me well. And, you know, the way it's kind of explained, or way it was kind of explained to me, is, you know, some people just have an allergy to alcohol and substances. Like, you know, if you have a peanut allergy, you just can't have peanuts.
Yeah.
You just can't. You can't have a little bit of peanuts. You can't have peanuts on special occasions. You just can't have them, right? Because you'll fucking die. You know? So, you know, the way I look at it is like, I just have an allergy to those things and I'm not allowed to have them. And like, because when I have them, it causes a reaction where I am a person that I don't want to be, and that, you know, put myself at risk. And yeah, like once you kind of make peace with that, like, you know, shit's easy.
Yeah.
You know, sorry, I don't want to say easy. It's not easy. But, it's tough, but it's like, you know, life becomes easier.
Yeah, of course. And, you know, I mean, obviously it's evidenced, you know, through your content now, where you're doing one thing a day that's good for you, whether it be like a run or anything. And I think that's fucking awesome, man. Like, it's so good, because like, you know, yes, you're not kind of going into the things that we've just talked about, but it still is part of that whole accountability thing. You're doing something, you're documenting. And, you know, if you want to flip that coin, you're ultimately, you don't know who you're inspiring by doing that, because, you know, people don't really have to know the reasons that you're doing it to be inspired themselves. People just need to see what it is you're doing. And what was it, day 34, 5 today?
So I it's weird. I do something every single day.
Yeah.
But I don't always film it. So I only like,
course.
So like, you know, I think the last video was like day 37, but it's now
37.
day 45, you know? So like, I just, cause I think like, you know, I record, like, I think people should recover loudly. Right. But I don't necessarily talk about sobriety, you know, all the time. I mention it, and this is probably the most I've talked about it. Cause I don't want, you know, I don't know. I it's a weird one, because I just don't want to like give the wrong impression or say the wrong thing. And, you know, I talk to anyone about it. Like if anybody is like it's something that's kind of new for me. So I don't
Yeah.
necessarily like, I'm kind of easing into speaking about it, like, because I don't want to become like the recovery guy, you know, the sobriety guy. And like, but at the same time, like, you know, I think as someone in recovery, you do have a responsibility to other people. Like, and I've had a lot of people reach out to me who know that I got sober, and, you know, they needed to do the same. And like, you know, and anyone, like, just putting it out there to anyone, like, you can reach out. There's plenty of resources out there. You know, I know how difficult it is. Get to a meeting, talk to someone else. You know, like there's plenty of rooms out there that are full of people that make this shit really easy for you. You know, and it is possible. Like if I can get sober, anyone can. You know, and it's frightening, but like there's a life worth living out there. You know, but like, yeah, it is something I need to just become a little bit more comfortable talking about, because like that, I wouldn't want someone to, like, I spent a long time hiding the fact that I wasn't all right, you know? So I would rather let people know that you can be all right. You know, you can be okay.
Yeah. I think that's an amazing message to send as well, that, you know, just because it's not right now doesn't mean it can't be, you know. And I think it's important, because it is this sort of thing where people do feel like there is no end, and whether that be whether they acknowledge that, or they just are so set in their ways to the point where, you know, they know the kind of path they're going on. Like,
yeah,
you know, I think just seeing somebody else kind of do that and succeed at that is amazing. And in terms of like, so, you know, we've seen it kind of reflect in, you know, your streams and your, you know, your content and everything, that, you know, there's like a different air about you. You can tell that you're a lot happier now. I wouldn't have said it was noticeable that you weren't happy before, but like now you notice the difference, and it's amazing to see. And I'm very, very happy for you, man. Like, and in terms of that, how has that like affected your return to songwriting and music? Because I know obviously you did like take a gap from just everything sort of in an online presence and even music. So coming back to your music side, and, you know, you've released a song recently, and now you've another one coming out. How has your sobriety sort of affected your approach to your songwriting?
It's kind of funny, you know, like, so I'm working on like, I make music purely for me, like, again, and I always have. Like, I think a lot of people would call it copium, of me being like, oh, I'm really glad I never made it as a streamer, really glad I never made it as a musician, you know. But no, I love writing music, and I love playing shows, and I love, you know, doing it with my friends and all that kind of stuff. And even though Twoshoes is a solo project, there is a lot of people involved in it, you know, like the lads who play with me live, Kev O'Shea, the lad who produces it and writes a lot of the instruments as well with me. You know, there's a lot of people there that are involved. But I suppose my songwriting, like, yeah, it's funny. I wrote a lot of music when I was not sober. And I went back and listened to a lot of it then when I got sober. And I was like, oh God. You know, but a lot of that, but some of that I've taken, a lot of parts from, and I wrote kind of a lot of music in active addiction, I suppose you could say, that you can really hear. I'm like, it's raw, like, you know, it kind of like, I think that was the true music was the only time around that time that I was able to kind of get honest with myself, you know, because you're living a double life, you know,
for sure,
and you believe in your own lies as well. But a lot of that music is still out there. Sorry, is going to be out there, and I'm kind of putting it all in an album that I kind of wrote half in active addiction and half of it in recovery. And the album's called Married to Malady, and we're nearly finished it. But I suppose getting sober, and like, I always write music around things that are happening to me at the time. You know, a lot of people kind of write stories in music, or they'll write about past experiences, or you know, things like that. Whereas I'll be going through something, and at the time I didn't really have anyone to talk to about it, so I would put it down on paper. And yeah, I kind of did that when I was obviously in the height of it, but like you said, I took a break kind of for everything. Like, the first few months of recovery, I just really had to focus on staying well, you know. So like that, I kind of moved away from content, moved away from that kind of gaming industry, I took a job in a store, and just really put my all into recovering, which is I'll always do. That'll be for life. But the music, then when I kind of went back to it, like I really noticed the change in it, like coming at it from like a different mindset and a clearer mind, and being able to kind of, like Sound of a Sadist, for example, like the last song I put out, you could listen to that and just think like, oh, it's a catchy song about, like a catchy song about, like, I don't know, a boppy little summer tune, but like that song's about me listening back to my own music.
Oh, wow.
So it's like, I don't think I really need to say this, but you're pumping up the sound of a sadist, like someone who's just hurting themselves all the time. Like when that's about me listening back to this music that I'd written in active addiction, where I'm like screaming out for a hand, and like, you can't, can't get out of it. Like it is like a bit of a hamster wheel, but like, I suppose now I think my songwriting's become a lot more hopeful, but it's also become a way for me to kind of, get out a lot of the stuff that say a lot of the things that I can't necessarily say at the moment. You know what I mean? Like, like I said, there's been kind of like things like, things in my life that, like, obviously there's damage being done, and a lot of this album is about kind of atoning for that and trying to take responsibility for it, without necessarily being able to speak directly to people or to whatever else. So it's definitely a more very honest record.
Yeah.
But dude, songwriting has become, I don't know, I've become a lot more good at quality control. I've definitely been like, there's some demos on my computer where I'm like, what was I thinking? You know what I mean? So now I'm writing a riff or something, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, no, this needs to change,
Yeah, I mean, I think that anybody who has like a creative outlet, like, does look back at their early stuff.
By the way, that's on my camera right now.
Yeah, I think anybody who does have like a kind of creative outlet like that, they do look back at their earlier projects and think, "Fuck, dude, what was that, man?" And like, but I really really liked your double life analogy there, because it really kind of like goes back to, and this is something like I think about this every single day, and it's this final product thing of what people really see. So it goes for absolutely everything, because people would have listened to your old music and just thought, wow, this is really catchy, this is good, really deep lyrically, but that's as far, because that's all people will see, and they don't really think about what it is that, one, what it took to write that, and two, what the person was going through, like what you were going through whenever you were writing that. And it's one of the things where, like, on hindsight, when you I would have known if it weren't for you telling me, and it's it's very, very interesting how, when you look back with a clearer mind, you kind of realize this and are able to kind of develop from that. So honestly, man, I'm fucking stoked to hear that. And,
but dude, thank you. But look, dude, it's kind of the same like with streaming and content as well. Any sort of it's the kind of curse of social media and the ability to put anything out, because all you see is the best parts. And all I kind of saw for a while was the trips to New York. And the all this kind of, you know what I mean? But like nobody sees the, like, when you hit stop streaming and that fucking
wow, man. The deep breath there, like, that you couldn't have put that any fucking better, man.
Like honestly. Nobody sees that kind of, like, man, I remember like coming off streams before, and like, look, I was lucky enough that a lot of the time I'd come off streams and I'd be happy. And then there's came to a point where, like, I remember like towards the end as well, like when I kind of went back to my own channel the odd time, I would just pretend my camera was broken, and I'd turn my camera off, and I'd be like, "Oh, sorry, camera's broke," because I was just sat there, and I just was like, not I nearly couldn't hide it anymore, because you come on stream and you're just like, "What's up, everybody? Like, Mama, how are you?" And like most of the time that was true, but then there's some days where, like, you literally are staring at OBS and staring at the start stream button, and you're like, "How the fuck am I going to do this for 3 hours?" And then eventually, like that, I stopped being able to hide it. So I had to just pretend the camera was off, and I'd sit there and be like, yeah, that, blah, 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 and those VODs are out there, and I can't bring myself to watch them. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't, like, but like, it is like that the kind of double life thing where you have your online, especially when you're someone who's been kind of in any way public, like with your life, like me, that you kind of come beholden to it in a weird way. So like you kind of feel like you have to do it, and when you're not doing it, you feel guilty for not doing it. But then like nothing, no part of you wants to, but you do it anyway. So yeah, it's a weird one. But like now, like I don't know, like now having gone through it all, like oh man, I just feel like the luckiest person, like being able to wake up and be able to fresh going to work and like being excited again to do this stuff. You know what I mean? And like remembering why I did it in the first place.
For sure. That's amazing, dude. Like it really is. And so just before we wrap up, man, like I want to hear about like tell us about your new song that is due to drop on the 7th of August. Yeah, man, just what are you gonna say?
So Sinner is coming out on the 7th of August. I also put out a song a couple of weeks ago called Sound of a Sadist. They're all on every social platform. Social platform. They're on every streaming platform under me, Twoshoes, TWO, shoes, all one word. Bar Apple Music. There's another Twoshoes on Apple Music, and there's a song called like Bitches Getting Money or something like that. That's not me. There's like some rapper on Apple Music called Twoshoes, and our music is compiled into one artist. I've reached out to them like so many times, and people are like, I remember talking to someone who's like, oh, the song about bitches is very different. It's just like different to your whiny emo music. Anyway, but yeah, Sinner's coming out on the 7th of August, and it's kind of a more kind of, it's kind of like an acoustic-y song that we put some drums and stuff to. It's good. It's a little bit more downbeat than Sound of a Sadist, which is kind of like a funky pop song. But yeah, they're all part of the album Married to Malady, which is hopefully going to come out in a little while. We're just putting Jesus, it's very bright in here. We're just putting the finishing touches on it now. We've like 3 more days in the studio in August, and then it's ready. And knowing me, I have no patience, and I'm not going to do the music thing of like, wait 4 months and promote the album and do all this. I was like, it's done. Launch it, put it out. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So listen to the music if you like. And yeah, dude, huge thanks to you to have me on. Like it's so sick. I'm really glad we got to do this.
Me too, man.
After so many times of trying to organize it.
it has been a long time coming. But like I say, I think it was. I think now was probably the best time to do it, man. Like I think it's been an incredible conversation. I really do, like just the raw honesty and openness. I really, really, really thank and respect you for that, because it's not easy to talk about so many different things. It's really, really, but at the same time, it is important, And I'm glad that you felt comfortable enough to be able to discuss these things, and it's been just an amazing conversation, man. So thank you so much, and
thank you, brother.
But I would just like to give you the floor as well, just before we wrap up, just for you to plug yourself, to let the listeners know where they can find you, and for your for loaded streams, your socials and music and everything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've talked enough about me, but we'll say, like, look, if anyone out there is going through a tough time, be it with just like the head or, maybe it is bad habits that maybe are becoming a bit more than habits at this stage, they're just, reach out. I know it's tough. Trust me, I know, but it's all on offer if you want it. And there's plenty of resources out there, be it meetings, be it counseling, there's loads of stuff. So don't feel like you can't send me a message or something and I can point you in the right direction. Because it can be done.
Yeah,
put it that way. And
Absolutely.
shit gets easier. It does not have to be this shit for a while. Forever, rather.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Like, I mean, I think, not just as creators, but as people, we're all here to help each other, and that's exactly what we should do, especially in times of need. If somebody can go through it and if somebody else needs to, then that's what we do, man. We have to lean on each other in times like this, and I think it's important. But Dan, once again, thank you so much, man, for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting, and really best of luck with the release, best of luck with the album, and especially everything going forward, man. So thank you so much.
Thanks, dude.
Cheers. And there you have it for episode 123 of Behind the Camera. Massive thank you to Twoshoes for being today's guest and for such a raw and honest conversation. If you want to see more of Dan, be sure to check out his socials linked in the description and his music on all platforms and the upcoming release of Sinner on the 7th of August. As always, thank you to all patrons for supporting the podcast via Patreon. It means the absolute world to me. And of course, if you would like to stay connected with Behind the Camera, check out my link tree in the description for all socials and for my book, Behind the Camera, The Journey So Far. Thank you for listening, the support, and for being part of the journey. Until next time, take care, stay creative, and I'll see you soon. But until then, peace.